This is Turd Flinging Monkey for TFM News. I'm going to be responding to an article called Chicago Police Officer Says She Feared Using Her Gun While Being Beaten. And this appeared on ABC7Chicago.com. Now you may be wondering why I'm even talking about this article. This has nothing to do with MGTOW, this has nothing to do with women or feminism or gynocentrism or anything. However, the purpose of this article is a metaphor for all of those things. So let me go through this article, and then I'll tie it back to the things I typically talk about, and you'll see why it's relevant. And this is a very short article, by the way. Chicago. A Chicago police officer who was hospitalized after she was severely beaten said she was afraid to use her gun because of the scrutiny she would have faced. Later on it says, quote, 3 officers were hospitalized in the incident. One officer who was severely beaten told Superintendent Johnson she was afraid for her life and afraid to use lethal force with all the attention on the police department's previous actions and fatal incidents. She thought she was going to die. She knew that she should shoot this guy, but she chose not to, because she didn't want her family or the department to have to go through the scrutiny the next day on national news. A nearby business captured surveillance video of the incident. The owner didn't see the incident firsthand, but saw how the incident unfolded on the surveillance video. And in a related article called Confirmed Demoralized Cops Equal Higher Crime, it reads, "So what do? We drive on, for we are not police officers in an ideal world. We are police officers in Los Angeles in the year 2016. And we know there is little to be gained and much to be lost if we get out of our car and engage these young men. If none of them runs and none is armed, if everything goes as pleasantly as things can go these days, we will at the very least be given a load of grief, first by the young men themselves, then by the many family members and other sympathizers who, attracted by the commotion, will soon emerge from nearby homes and apartment houses. And if one of them runs, well then we might have to chase them, and if we catch them we might have to hit them. An incident that will be captured on cell phone videos and posted on YouTube, and if the footage is sufficiently inflammatory, broadcast on local television news. And if one of these young men is armed and we have to shoot him, and if the video of the shooting does not clearly demonstrate that we were fired upon first, we will see our chain of command abandon us and pronounce our tactics unsound. This despite the fact that few of our superiors have actually stood in our shoes. And we might see that video become a national news story, one that will prompt the police commissioners, the mayor, the governor, and even the president of the United States himself to offer their unschooled opinions on the deficiencies of our actions. So, as we are not fools, we drive on. And if one of those young men should later fall at the hand of a gang rival, or if one of them should venture over to Main Street and shoot some other member of Jermaine's gang, well then, we'll go code 3 to the crime scene and ring the area with yellow tape and stand around while the homicide detectives sort things out. And we'll go home and tell our family and friends how sad it all is, but what can we do? And now that we've chosen to ignore the gathering of street criminals, and after other officers have done the same with similar groups across the area, those criminals will be all the more emboldened to carry out with the behavior that terrorizes their law-abiding neighbors. For the only thing that will deter that behavior is the credible threat of the bad consequences that flow from being stopped by the police while possessing a gun. If the cops won't act, if they drive on by, the drive-by shootings will only increase. Alright, so that's all I'm going to quote from those articles. Now, again, you may be wondering why I'm talking about this. Am I going to make a statement about the police? Am I going to be talking about black crime or something? I'm actually not. This is a metaphor. And I hope you see what this metaphor is. If you haven't heard of MGTOW, or if you're new to MGTOW, you're not sure what it's all about. MGTOW are men who, like these cops, have seen the system turn against them. And they're driving on by. They're just trying to survive another day. They know that should they do the quote-unquote right thing, not only will they not be rewarded for it, they'll be punished for it. And so, not being fools, they don't make that sacrifice. They don't nobly fall on the sword for the greater good. They do what's in their interest, which is to keep their head down and move the fuck on. Are there consequences for that? Absolutely. As you can see the crime and murder going up in cities because cops refuse to do their job, you see the social decay all around you because men aren't doing their job, quote unquote. But the reason why they're not doing their job is because society has turned their back on them. Society has betrayed them. Yelling at the cops to do their job and protect their communities out of one side of your mouth, and then denouncing when they do their job as being violent, racist, whatever, out of the other side of your mouth, it doesn't make any sense. And by that same token, telling men to man up and marry these single moms, take care of these kids, raise these families, and keep the assembly line of humanity going out of one side of your mouth, and then out of the other side of your mouth, calling men privileged and oppressors and violent and toxic, it makes exactly the same amount of sense. And what happens to a city when all the police are effectively on strike? When they refuse to do their job out of self-preservation? When you have a group that's responsible for maintaining society, like law enforcement is. Without some kind of law enforcement, you don't have civilization. So seeing a society turn against its own law enforcement, the upholding of its own laws, the consequences are very easy to see coming, and yet it's happening anyway. Likewise, it is men who build and maintain society. And as society turns against men, as it vilifies and demonizes and beats down and shames men, no matter what they do, if they conform, they're demonized and bullied and shamed. If they don't conform, they're demonized and bullied and shamed. They can't win. What can men do except drive on, keep their nose clean, keep their head down, and just try to survive? This is Turd Flinging Monkey signing off.